You're right over line.
Wonderful, thank you. Okay, good evening, authority members. I'm going to call to order the April 13th, 2023, James Transportation Authority Governance and Personnel Committee. And if everyone has looked over your minutes, and I know that you have, from the March 9th meeting, can I get a motion to approve? So moved. That motion is approved by Ann Wheeler. Is there a second on that? Seconded by Mayor Davis Younger. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? So we have what, three? Ms. Frischel, you won the governance, no, so we have, so that would be a 3-0-2 vote with two members of the governance personnel committee not being here. And those two members are Mr.
Chairman McKay, and Board Member Crystal.
And Ms. Crystal are not here yet. Thank you for that. We have only one item tonight, and it is a discussion item. It's probably kind of a wrap up. It's both a wrap up of the General Assembly session, and it's a precursor to the budget we hope yet to come. It won't be so skinny. Won't be so skinny. Right now, all we have is a skinny budget. So, Ms. Bernard and Ms. Backman, I will send it to you.
So this is going to be very, very quick. It was a very soft and quickly, I did talk a lot, but non-controversial veto session. There was one initiative that we were just tracking. The governor, as reported earlier, had made an amendment to the Transit Ridership Incentive Program TRIP. As it passed the General Assembly, it would have allowed up to 30% of TRIP funds to be available for two new initiatives. One is transition to electric vehicles for transit agencies, and the second is to improve and expand on accessibility, public accessibility to transit, and that would be shelters, ADA compliance, bus stop equipment, and seating. And both of those were recommendations that came out of the Transit Equity and Modernization Study. Governor sent his amendments back. He deleted the EV transition related eligibility and added safety initiatives, including safety for passengers, operators, and staff, transit staff. The amendments were accepted by the General Assembly, and he has approved the bill as it was amended. So that's where we stand right now in any updates to the TRIP. That was really the only thing from an MBTA interest that we were watching. He, as I said, he amended under 100 bills, only vetoed 3. And right now, what we're hearing, and you all have probably seen the media reports on it and talk to your members, they want to see the April revenue collections before the conferees are willing to make a final decision on the budget. June is what we're hearing is they all come back in a special session and take up the budget. I suspect.
I'm sorry.
June 20th. Yeah. Whether they come up before or after is going to be an interesting question. Probably after. I suspect that they will. I mean, what they want to spend money on, I think there's consensus. The revenue and how much is available is really driving how much they're going to spend. I wouldn't be surprised if there were a level of spending that is for FY 2024 that would be contingent, at least some trigger for it, because there's just that much concern about where revenue growth is or is not going to be moving forward. And then, of course, they come back in January and they would have the remainder of 2024 to take action on, and of course, address every young government's 25-26 budget.
All right. Anything else? Ms. Crystal, anything else? We think we should know for MBTA or any other major thing that would affect MBTA?
No.
All right.
No. We were lucky enough to have a very quiet year.
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to be like that next year, but.
Sure. So there was that wasn't a general bill, it was sort of a specific bill.
But we are the majority funding.
Okay, so you might recall that there are some there's the General Assembly several years ago approved a couple of pilots regarding undergrounding of certain size of electric transmission lines related to projects. There was a bill this year put in by Senator Vogel and Delegate Weber for adding another project into the pilot pool for their part of the world, Clark and out that way. Senator Serville added an amendment that would add Fairfax County BRT related projects into the pool. Now, that you're in the pool doesn't mean it's going to happen. The locality, State Corporation Commission, Dominion Energy, all have to come to agreement regarding cost, pathways, how it gets paid for, etc. So there are now 4 projects in the pilot pool.
So it was that.
The governor the General Assembly added it to the bill. The governor took it out in his amendments. The General Assembly did not act on the governor's amendment. So the governor is getting back the bill as passed by the General Assembly, and he has 3 actions he can take. He can sign it. He can allow it to move forward without a signature, or he can veto it. And I don't think, I don't recall right offhand what it went by for the day, but I don't think there's been a
Is it by the
discussion.
day in veto session?
You're allowed to do that. You can, the phrase is, recommend that the governor's recommendations go by for the
So
day.
that doesn't mean like.
They don't vote on it. They just don't vote on it.
That's the same thing as being like laid on the table, it's not coming back.
Yes, correct.
Okay, because there's no other day for it to go by too.
Correct. Yes, that is the best way to say that. And I'm sorry that I cannot remember if he's decided to do anything with it. Anyway, so that is that's part of the negotiations.
And I asked Ms. Boehner to speak to that project because we have $330 million on the Richmond Highway DRT alone. And if they do have the underground utilities now, the county and the bill requires it, and the county to do that, and that's what they are required to do.
Not required.
Well, if they choose to do
They choose
it,
to, yeah.
that's what they do. My point is that if additional money is needed from the authority, and I did explain this to the county, their congestion reduction relative to cost for it, I am a little concerned about, because it's not additional capacity, it's just additional funding. So would that cause for best case scenario to stay the same, or would it be lower? This is all hypothetical. The county has not said in any shape, form, or fashion that they are going to do this, or they are going to seek additional money from MBTA, but you did approve a call for projects last month. And that portal, the application portal, opens May 1st. So we are watching just to see what's going on.
So looking ahead to 2024, early days, I think probably the most important thing to watch would be the CTV, actually all of our review and comments and recommendations that come around regarding the smart scale. Any changes may or may not require legislation. Depends on how the recommendations come out.
Is smart scale, is the legislation of smart scale similar to legislation for NBTA? Do you have to like open up the entire legislation to change something or to adjust something?
Well, technically, any amendment,
Yeah, that's what you have to do.
right, you're opening up this way. You could have a bill introduced to look at a specific part of a code section,
Yeah,
but then once it gets to a committee and the
they can
General
do something
Assembly,
with it, yeah.
they could do what they want. As long as it's germane to the bill. And the
Right,
section.
yeah. Interesting. So based on what he received, or what they received back and what they want to do, it could be a whole revamping of smart scale.
It could be, I don't know that it's going to be a revamping. And again, the decision that CTB has yet to make, because there's a lot of work still to be done, and a lot of public comment to come, may not require a change in legislation. It could be a change in the guidelines. There's enough latitude that things can be changed via guidelines that are adopted by the CTB. There'll be public hearings on that, et cetera, that may not require them going into the code.
Yeah, I would say that, I would say that the vast majority of what's possible will be things that are within our purview. I actually don't think that the secretary wants to go into the code.
Yeah, I don't either.
You don't think so?
No, I don't.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't think so either.
okay.
But I would basically say, stay tuned. So on our agenda,
So you just said he might go into the code, he might not.
No, I don't think he wants to because he doesn't have the stomach for a big political fight.
Okay,
And I think you're gonna see some attention paid to the weeds. You know, safety is 5 for us. We already talked about that. Our congestion is way high. It's us and Hampton Roads in that bed together.
right.
So, you know, there's certainly thinking going on now about what if we changed, what if we moved some of those numbers around, what impact might it have on our projects?
Yeah.
There's also a lot of thinking going on around that whole thing I talked to you guys about, that step 2 thing where projects that got skipped over because they came from MPOs
Yeah,
got funded out of high priority, even though they didn't have very high impact
right,
scores.
right.
And so there's a lot, and actually somebody explained it to me in a way that allowed me to understand it. What happened was that because the district grant pots got so big for the small jurisdictions, they went way down, way further in their list than they'd ever gone before.
Which was not what Smart Scale was supposed to do, was
Well,
it?
the district grant fund is to replace the old sort
The old
of
local
formula
formula.
money that used to come to localities.
Okay,
And so those were projects that localities just picked. What Smart Scale did was bring some rigor to the evaluation of those projects so that things were being apples to apples compared and ranked in particular
but their
ways.
first scale, their first rating though is congestion relief, right? That's still true.
For
us in Hampton Roads.
For us in Hampton Roads, we're at 45%, but everybody else is below 20. It's 20 or less for congestion. They have big scores in economic development in parts of the state, as you might imagine. That, you know, it's really, that's the trade-off.
I just, you know, and maybe I've never really understood Smart Scale, I'm not sure.
That you really want to.
Maybe not, maybe I don't. But I just don't know how it's possible that Northern Virginia, with our population and our congestion, gets 7% of Smart Scale money. If Smart Scale is actually meeting and being scored and being conducted as it was initially intended to. And if it's not, then, I mean, I'm not like, you know, listen, if I understand that smaller jurisdictions need what they need. For me, it's like, tell me how it's working and I'll be fine with that. But don't tell me one thing and then it's something completely different.
No, and I certainly don't mean to do that to you,
No,
Phyllis.
no, you're not doing that. Other people, no, you explain this more than anybody else in
Yeah.
Virginia to me.
So we have to be careful on that 7% number because flowing into everybody's district grant funds except us in Stanton is all of their gas tax money. And so I tried to find out, I did ask this question, could we have a column that says, here's your gas tax and here's your district grant money? And they tell me trying to separate would be, it's a nightmare. You can't actually do it easily, doesn't track right. So we just have to acknowledge, I wish they'd show us the amount they think is gas tax, even if it's not distributed among the districts. And we have to start acknowledging that our gas tax money is being spent every year on transit. And that when we add that money together, we have the same kind of money that they have in their districts.
I think it's more the issue of how are we doing on the high priority?
Well,
Because that's really the
right,
statewide
and
competition.
the high priority should never happen ever again the way that it happened.
Okay, okay.
I think there are many people, CTV members, people in Richmond staff, people in the districts who are like, this is not what we're supposed to do.
Okay, so not just me.
So, no.
Okay,
No. So I think there will be a number of approaches to try to fix that. I
okay.
don't know what's gonna actually come through.
And you don't think that any of these approaches, he needs to go to the code to fix? Okay, that's good news.
No, and in fact, step two isn't really, the way we did step two isn't in the code at all. It's just how we did it. And the way, so here's the reason explanation I was trying to give you. Because all that new money flowed into those district grants for Bristol, Salem, Lynchburg. They had almost as much money in their district grant pot as we did. We only had 5 million more than Bristol, but it was
Wow.
about the gas. So all of a sudden, all these little Bristol projects with very low scores because there's no people out there and you can only spend so much on economic development, in my opinion. All their little projects got funded. And they skipped over all these MPO projects that are not eligible for district grant. That is in the code. So if we wanted to change that, we'd have to go do the code. But there's nothing that says we can't say MPO projects have to score higher than the average score on the smart scale, or they have to be above a certain dollar amount.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of things we can do but because there was so much money, and then the rule or the practice was take every MPO project and fund it now, and step two out of high priority. We have 2 or 3 projects. All of a sudden, half the funds, because they applied that rule consistently, leaving only 2 projects in high priority, not what anybody thinks was intended.
Okay,
So there will be that will be addressed. I don't know how. I mean,
Okay.
like I said, there's a lot of ideas floating around and people are asking for different things to be run.
yeah.
So the way we do is we look back. We basically say, let's take the projects that came in this one, let's apply different rules to them and see what happens. And that's the only way we can do it.
I guess, I may have talked to Secretary Miller about this directly, and I've heard him say many times that he, quote, really wants to address smart scale, unquote. And I've never quite known, what that meant, with that. And so, if you say he doesn't have the stomach for it, well,
I don't think he has a
he's
stomach
kind of
for
like nibbling
he
around the
doesn't
edges.
have the stomach for a big fight
For
in
a
the
fight.
general assembly. And I don't know that Youngkin really wants to fight over transportation.
Yeah.
I think he's got a lot of other things he would much rather slap us around
Yeah,
than transportation. Right.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I just don't see, but the other thing you have to remember is that Smart Scale is an incredible national model.
Yeah.
Everybody looks to us. We are doing more to rank and stack projects than anybody else in the country. And the amount of political rancor
Yeah.
has gone down way. So he doesn't want to,
Build it back up again. Yeah.
he really he doesn't want
I
to.
do believe that. No, I do believe that.
So I think it's going to be tricky. So
Okay.
if you want to know kind of what the public said in the surveys and all the things that have been going on, there is a report on the workshop agenda from Coaching.
For Tuesday's meeting.
On ACT, on all the ACTS. I do think, the little people always say they need more money. It's really hard for them to say that this year. It's really hard.
Yeah.
So
Okay. That's-
it'll be interesting.
Any other questions from Ms. Baynard or Beckman? Or Ms. Hines? No? Okay. Well, before I call this meeting adjourned, so when we get to the authority meeting at 7, Mr. Alcott is going to join us at about 7:05 to approve the minutes. And we'll talk about that when we get there. So if everyone could be here at 7 so that he needs to jump on and jump off, We cannot approve the minutes without him. I appreciate that.
Madam Chair,
So, yes, sir. Ms. Lynn.
can I just raise one issue looking forward? While Ms. Baynard is here. So there's been a lot of conversation about safety, and we've got safety as one of our lenses that we're trying to look through as we look at projects. And, you know, we're looking at, should we up our safety score? We're going to continue to. But I will say to you, in all honesty, that when we're funding programs out in years 5 and 6, and safety is the driver, we're kind of like using the wrong program, in my opinion. So there are two things that, because people are dying already, you get a really high safety score, you've already got a situation that you shouldn't do it. So there's two things that I would like the authority to think about. I will be, you know, here when we do our legislative package, but I just wanted, one of them's legislative. The most impactful things we can do for safety, particularly our interstates and our major arterial sectors, is to find a way to put speed cameras in place where we have a visual speed. Not everywhere, and there's a company that's been doing that kind of work on our roadways where they can identify where the visual speeding is without saying people's tag numbers or whatever. So it would help identify the places where we could really get the bang for the buck in terms of putting up a camera, and you could say to a police officer or state patrolman, you go here, you're gonna catch people and it'll be worth it. Seriously, because otherwise that's just random. Where are they? The General Assembly has to approve the placement of speed. And if we care about this, we should be putting in our legislative package something that would say, you know, let's figure it out.
We did, our legislative package this year.
Okay, well,
Because right now we can only use them in the school zones.
I know,
work zones.
so we-
And work zones.
I asked for area away, but I'm just saying, it should be a push. It's
Yeah.
not just.
We've been
for the-
working with Virginia Municipal League. We got this entity on board. I believe we put it in the NBTC package as
Yeah.
well.
Okay, well, good.
Yeah, there's a
I'm-
strong around the Commonwealth.
And then the other one is seatbelts as a
Primary
primary
offense.
offense. That is the other one. And open booze in the car. Those are the, so, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Is it separate? No. So, and,
And open booze in the car, that's a whole different issue, Mary.
no, I'm just saying that we tried,
That's illegal.
no, it's not.
Open carry.
Open carry is
It's been
not.
it's been a discussion.
I thought
Thought
I
that-
mean, usually open carry means something else.
Yeah.
No, they didn't fix it. Tracy.
They didn't.
They did not fix it. So your
It's been a few
passengers can
years.
be drinks. You can have an open.
Oh, the passengers.
Yeah, but the driver cannot.
The driver cannot.
Well, yeah.
But-
Yes, but passengers can have open carry. That is true.
Open booze, open carry.
Well,
They can have that too.
but
That's.
that's what goes in the bill. Just small, just saying.
All right. All right, I made my.
All right, we have to adjourn so we can be in time starting the meeting so that we can be here for Walter when he
That end,
pops on.
this end.
All right, I mean, the 30 members, hello, Ms. Maynard. I'm sorry, we are